Hello, and thanks for joining Southeast Speaks, a work of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies. Once a week, we meet with students, faculty, alumni, and friends who support the work of training gospel preachers. Enjoy today's discussion, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hi, this is Greg Wanderman, and today I'm talking with Trent Key, a graduate of the East Tennessee School of Preaching and Missions in 2011, and the minister at the Mount Leo Church of Christ in McMinnville, Tennessee. It's good to be here with you today, and we're here in your auditorium, a lovely congregation you've got here, and it looks like you're doing a good work.
Well, we appreciate you coming and let me be a part of this. So,
all right. Well, so tell us a little bit first about your family.
Well, my wife and I have been married for almost 13 years this coming August, and we've been in the process of adoption for the last 2, and we're actually going to be, Lord willing, if everything goes through, in August we'll be the parents of a baby boy.
Now, we're not ruining anything, right?
No.
You've already done the big reveal.
Yes, we've done
on
the big
Facebook,
reveal. Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
And this baby boy's name will be?
Charlie Ellsworth.
And that, if I understood from your dad, is his father or grandfather?
His grandfather, my great-grandfather.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. So that's neat to keep that alive.
Absolutely.
In the tradition. And I guess we should mention he preaches just down the road, right?
Yeah, literally 5 minutes. Yeah.
What's that like?
To be honest with you, I didn't know what to think of it when we moved here. I never really thought that I'd have the opportunity to work in the same community. You know, being a preacher, you think maybe an hour, maybe, 45 minutes down the road from each other, but in the same community, it's a blessing, really.
It's like being in a town where the Church of Christ is sort of known everywhere.
Well, it's a blessing, to be able to have this many Christians in the same community. Whenever there's gospel meetings or vacation Bible schools, you have your unlimited pick as to, what congregations you want to be able to go there and encourage and also hear a lesson from. But there are challenges,
It seems like all of the congregations that I've seen work together well.
Yes.
You have an area-wide preachers meeting, or?
We do, yeah. The first Monday of every month we get together, and there's generally about 10, sometimes upwards of maybe 10 to 15 that are able to attend. And some of them have secular work that they're involved in too, not able to, but it's a blessing there too.
Yeah. So, well, tell us about your work here some.
We've been here, come June, we'll be here for about 8 years. And we moved here right after I completed an internship with the Collinsville congregation out of Collinsville, Illinois. That
was a neat thing. I guess your dad's kind of trying to recreate that now, doing an internship over there.
Yes.
But you went and did, it was a set, 2-year internship or something?
It was about a 2 to 3 year program.
Okay.
And the elders had set it up several years ago, well before we graduated from the school. And of course, being a young preacher, it was a great opportunity for us to get involved in. And
Let's see, how old were you when you graduated?
I was 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So.
But I was still, wet behind the ears. So that's one of the challenges I guess I faced early on was, as a young minister, people wanting to have that confidence in you and hire you. Well, Collinsville stepped out and gave us the opportunity. And one thing led to another for us to be here at Mount Leo. And it's been great for us to be here. The elders are great to work with.
How has COVID affected your work here?
I think that we saw a slowdown just like everybody else. It's hard to believe that it's been a year since all that hit. But, we did the best that we could. Our elders got together and tried to reach out to people in the congregation as often as they could. They sent out letters a few times saying, we miss you and want to, look forward to a time to where we can be back maybe more to a normal schedule. As far as a preacher affecting me, not getting to go in to do visitations in hospitals and such has been really, it's been really a burden, really, and hard for me. And I think that you could relate to that. Part of ministry is getting to make that personal connection. And I think that's been the hardest of it all.
Thinking back to our time at what was the East Tennessee School of Preaching, now Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies, what would you say is a good memory or a favorite a memory or thought that you have?
I would say that the door knocking campaigns were some of my highlights. Yeah, I remember both years. The first year we went down to Alabama, and Brandon Hamilton and I did some door knocking together, and there are some of those doors we knocked that you saw people accept the invitation just to come to a simple gospel meeting, or I don't know if it was a VBS or gospel meeting one, but they came, and I'll never forget some of those faces that we got to see. And then the second one in Blue Ridge, Georgia, door knocking with Tom Bolin. Some people say that going to door and doing the door knocking like that isn't effective anymore, but some restorations and actually some converts have actually come out in the work here at Mount Leo and doing door knocking.
That's great. We're going to take a quick break for a second and hear a special message.
Hello, my name is Will Hanstein, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southeast Institute of Biblical Studies in Knoxville, Tennessee. In Matthew chapter 9, verses 37 and 38, Jesus says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." In these two verses, Jesus communicates a very important concept to us. The problem is not with the amount of people who would be willing to obey the gospel. The problem is with the amount of people who would be willing to go and teach the gospel to them. So let me ask you a very important question. Have you considered becoming a gospel preacher? Here at Southeast, we have a no-cost, in-depth program of Bible study where you will learn how to communicate the gospel more effectively. At the end of your 2 years here, you will be awarded with a Bachelor of Biblical Studies degree, and we will help you find a sound congregation with which you can work. So let me ask you again, not have you considered becoming a gospel preacher, but would you consider becoming a gospel preacher? If so, visit our website at makingpreachers.com and fill out an application there. Come to Southeast, where preachers are made.
And we're back with Trent Key, a graduate of the East Tennessee School of Preaching and Missions in 2011, and the minister at the Mount Leo Church of Christ in McMinnville, Tennessee. What's one of the tools that you learned while you were at the School of Preaching that you are very thankful for, that you put into action, that you use here in your ministry?
I would say the quality of study, if that makes any sense. Being able to go back, they supplied me with resources that, before I would have never considered as far as textbooks and such. I reflect back to my notes and such all the time, but knowing how to study is a big help to understanding the Bible. And I'll go back to that week after week in the sermon designing process and such.
The process of study, of knowing what's good information, what's bad, or just the how to put in the hours or the discipline, what aspect of
study? A little bit of everything, really. Yeah. As far as the quality of time that you spend within the study, I learned rather quickly you can't.
You don't quit studying when you become
a preacher, right? Imagine that, right? Yeah. I would say that has carried over with me from Collinsville to Mount Leo, and it just gets better. They told us at the School of Preaching that the notes that they give you, that's just the start of it all. That's just the start of your study, and I've remembered that ever since, and building on top of that. I guess what I'm referring to is maybe the foundation for study, the foundation.
Yeah.
So
tell me about your experience in terms of like the fact that we offer the tuition free and the kind of hours that you put into study, all of the, just basically what the value is that you would put on your time there.
Priceless, really. There are times where I wish that I could go back and relearn some of the things that I'd forgot. But to be able to go through that school was just such a blessing. I've experienced it from two different angles. You talked about Dad a few moments ago. As a kid, I saw Dad constantly studying for 2 years, and I was about 13, 14 years old. What I saw Dad receive at the School of Preaching, I saw how well equipped he was. I saw, it was just a blessing to be able to kind of see what East Tennessee was producing through him. And then for me to later realize I want to do this too. There was no doubt in my mind. I knew where I was going to go.
What made you decide you wanted to be a preacher?
To be a preacher?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I had guys like Charles Brown and James Meadows whenever I was 13, 14 years old, growing up around them. And, the family at Carnes, my first time I ever did a gospel preaching was when Dad was going through the school. And Josh Hartwigson came up and said, Trent, before your dad graduates, you're going to preach your first sermon. And I said, I don't think so, Josh. But one thing led to another. I think I was 14 years old, and I preached, I think it was 8 minutes, an 8-minute lesson on a Sunday night, 365 people.
A little Jonah action there. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. And, several of the members, came up and were very encouraging to me. But I can remember guys like James and others coming up and saying, what do you think you're going to be when you grow up? And I said, a preacher. So it was about 14 years old that I made that decision that I was going to do it. I just didn't know when.
So your dad's example and seeing him go through the school and all of those kinds of things actually led you into it or helped you to make that decision.
I saw the real side to ministry too. I knew that it wasn't going to be easy going in. I knew some of the challenges Dad faced, but and I thought, I've been around this my entire life. This is what I need to do,
That's great.
Yeah.
If you were going to encourage a young man, if you were going to tell him that you need to go get an education or you need to continue your, if there's a guy out there right now who's maybe self-taught or preaching, somewhere in a small congregation, why should they go to Southeast?
If I were going to say, why choose Southeast, I would imagine that the degree and the amount of knowledge that you would receive after completing the program there is well worth it.
What would you say to other alumni that would be helpful and why they should be involved with the school?
Well, one of the things that I think that I can at least speak for me, but I think that Dad would feel the same, that, we appreciated our education and being able to stay connected to the School of Preaching, whether it be, being able to support financially the little that we can, or being able to find ways to help the school, succeed. At the end of the day, your mission is our mission. We're all about saving the lost. It's about going into the world to help lost souls attain their salvation and to help the church be strengthened. And, schools of preaching such as Southeast and others, to be able to stand beside and help in that effort, that's what we should all be about whenever it comes to the mission of Christ. It's about making sure that the schools of preaching have preachers that are going to be out there in the fields doing the work that they need to do. And as alumni, us giving back in any time, any resources, anything that we can to see the school succeed is going to help in that greater mission.
Well, we appreciate all that you do, all that you've done for the school and continue to do. And thanks so much for having me down today. Again, we're here with Trent Key, the minister at the Mount Leo Church of Christ in McMinnville, Tennessee. And it's just been a pleasure to be with you today.
Likewise, Greg. Thanks for coming.
Thanks again for joining us today on Southeast Speaks, and we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, be sure to like, share, and why not subscribe so you can get notified when we have interviews with students, faculty, alumni, and supporters of Southeast. Thank you, and have a blessed day.